This is the Almost Daily ZenCast. Hello, and Namaste. Thank you for tuning in to today's episode. I am your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zeppo. Let's get started. Greetings and salutations, friends, and namaste to you. I am, in some ways, almost crippled with too many thoughts, too many concerns, too many ideas, and too much time that I've let fly by since our last episode, and I apologize to you, dear audience. And also, I have some sad, disappointing news to bring about to bear that I guess in part has been a burden on me that I've been letting myself drag out and postpone the announcing of this not so great news. And that's that I do not think I will be able to renew, at least not at the yearly subscription level that I've been at, the platform I use to distribute this podcast. Now, the Buddhist samurai in me is fine with that and is happy to just bust out the giant Zen samurai sword of letting go and sever the ties with the ephemeral content. Excuse me, I'm fighting off a seasonal bug, something or another. I haven't been able to discern through the sensations I'm experiencing, whether it's going to be the flu or a head cold or it's going to be something up in here in this upper quadrant. It isn't a lower end extremities disease. Forgive the coughing. But at the very end of this month, on the 28th actually, unless by some miracle I get a swamp of donations in order to be able to comfortably and without concern of it endangering my personal bank balance, the what I consider slightly exorbitant amount of money they charge for the yearly subscription. I could try and switch it to a monthly payment, but there's a little weird technical detail about doing that. I am in no way, shape, or form meaning to speak ill of this platform. I love, endorse, and totally approve of the Sprecher podcast creation and publication platform. I just humbly wish it was a little bit less expensive because I'm not in a position where that yearly subscription or even the somewhat typical price point of the monthly subscription isn't a bit of a stress factor, like right now. I failed to prepare for this end of the year bill, and I don't think I can scrape enough together in time in order to ensure 100% continuity of the hosting of this show. And looking back on my own personal performance as host, producer, creator, responsible for the deployment of new content, I've failed utterly to keep this show dropping with fresh episodes in a timely and relevant manner. I could make all kinds of excuses. I will be honest with you. I have been a bit overwhelmed and flabbergasted by the confluence of some totally irrelevant and none of your business personal circumstances, and just this overwhelming wave of too many different crazy and, when taken all too seriously, mildly depressing, because let's be honest, it's all a big bummer. And I don't mean depressing in the clinical sense, and I'm not trying to alert anyone's red flags about my mental health. I feel, other than the general normal stress level and the general normal global tug of war with the existential and common everyday postmodern stress. I want everyone to rest assured that I don't feel in any way, shape, or form clinical about my somewhat sad state of being. But I am, and I will be honest, it's okay to be true about your emotions. I'm a little conflicted and sad that I've let things come to this place where not only do I feel like the authoritative voice of auteur there. It took me a hot second to get the pronunciation files assigned to the right locations in the syntax of that sentence. But I stand by what I just said. It's been, that well is run a little dry. Like the inspiration and that sense of burning, creative, passionate urgency of words at the tip of my tongue that need to be spoken out loud and shared with the world, that has waxed and waned throughout the course of this prolonged podcast experiment. And through no fault of anybody here, I'm not in any way, shape, or form trying to play a victim card or play a grievance card. I'm just stating facts here. The simple reality is that while this show has caught on in a surprisingly diverse number of locations around the world, regardless of what shape you may or may not believe it to be in, whatever it is, from India to Dubai to Spokane, Washington to the middle of the desert, Palm Springs, to occasionally, people in New York, a handful of people from everywhere have sampled episodes of this show, and that has always brought me some sparkling glimmer of hope that it might someday build up steam. As awkward, as disorganized, as poorly produced as it may or may not be, I was hoping that it would sort of find an audience large enough that would, because I know that I'm an audience-driven entertainer. Like, if there was like as with any of the other live streaming experiments that I've tinkered with in recent times, if it all could have started with a thronging, active audience that I could interact with in some way, either through chat or through I don't know. Like, I'd much rather be hosting something on stage, but I digress. Like, the flow of it all comes out better, quicker, more interesting. But I digress. That also would be true if I'd had a host or a co-host or co-hostess, if I can disambiguate without being pejorative. Because this was always envisioned to be like something I did with my life partner. And curiously, none of the people that I have encountered during the course of the production of this podcast that were even close or actually literally in, considering becoming my life partner were ever all that interested. And that's a different story. It's not like I shouldn't blame the absence of anyone for the state of my products and the condition of my work output. Regardless, here we are, friends. I don't know what I'm going to do exactly. I may try to find a way to sustain the show by switching over successfully to the monthly billing thing. I much prefer to pay for the whole year up front and then just not think about it the rest of the year. But that I got myself into this mess by doing that last year and not setting aside a large enough chunk of money on a regular basis to be ready for this. So here we are. And in assessing my various options, one thing is I could put a call out for donations. If any of you, if 300 of you could scrape together $1.50 or $2 to donate to my Ko-Fi donation funnel over at ko-fi.com/Mr. Zeppo. Before the 28th, That's a lot. That's a big ask. If I'd maybe been doing a campaign of episodes for the last, 2.5 months, 3 months since before Thanksgiving, and also continuing to put out an episode every couple of days, every week, I might have gathered momentum for that. But I couldn't, and I didn't, and I wouldn't in many ways. Many a day, mind you, I should point out, and this is all for just sharing the intellectual property of what's actually happened to me, because this whole show is sort of a project in developing real world talking points about real world events to be integrated into a fictional world as a sort of MacGuffin of things that happened somewhere else, if that makes any sense. But I digress. I have been going through an emotional, procedural growth process of some kind of blockage, wherein which I had the seed thoughts, I was still surveying world events and going, oh, this is what I feel in response to that, what I think in response to that. This is what my limited ability to assess and investigate these things has led me to opine, as it were, to use an archaic word, I think still correctly. And yet I wasn't ready or positioned or feeling capable or feeling able to then take those chaotic thoughts, because that all happens in a big churning stew of too many things at once, and distill it all into engaging bundle of particular episodes. Now, I do have a baseline default option, which is to revert to the completely free style of this or offering for this podcast platform, in which case I can continue to keep doing almost daily episodes. I just got to make sure they're under 15 minutes each, and we're at 12:12. So I better wrap things up if I'm going to start practicing that. But I will need to do something about all the backlogged content, because that's all random, crazy, long-ass different things, and it'll all mysteriously go away. And I don't really have it archived anywhere else. I've got to see if I can find a solution to that before the 28th. But if I'm super lucky, pray for me that either I get a handful of donations of the right combination of people, number of dollars donated, so that I can pay the $300 fee to keep the podcast just as it is, status quo, and not failing. And let me may the back end survive the switch, because the way they describe having to switch from a yearly pay cycle to the monthly pay cycle is you got to let your account collapse into the free mode, which in theory at that point the service deletes all your previous content that isn't exactly 15 minutes or shorter, and then resubscribe, like they say, re-upgrade from free mode to the broadcast level, which is their next level up, which is they're missing a level between free and broadcast, in my opinion. I think they used to have it and they got rid of it. But, I don't know. But I'm worried that means my content, my catalog will be erased. So, and I don't think I have enough hours in the days left between now and when I've got to sort this out to download everything, because they don't have a save all option in my, management panel. So, I gotta see what we can do. But, stay tuned, friends. We're gonna try and figure it out. DJ Zed is telling me we gotta back it, we gotta get it out, we gotta rage it out. Here's a track to close out this. Well, we don't have to actually be 15 minutes long, because this transition has not happened yet. But here we go, friends. One way or the other, I want to see if we can transition to something different. And one thing I'm considering doing is just, like I was saying before, taking that Zenist imaginary samurai sword and just severing the attachment completely, and then transitioning to doing the same idea of a show, but as part of my live stream, because all of that's already there. In which case, I would have to figure out a way to move all of you guys, those of you listening around the world in the different places, over to my Twitch account, which can be found over at twitch.com. Is it twitch.com or twitch. Hold on, let me double check. Let me go to it. It's twitch.tv/Mr. Zeppo. Now, there's going to be a radical different mix of content over there. And the idea of this podcast would be kind of lost in the mix of all that. Anyways, I thought I would bring that all to your attention. And now, friends, I'll let you enjoy the end of this track, and we'll be signing off for today. I apologize to you for not successfully bringing this podcast series, this project of different projects, to a more well-defined epiphany of success, or critical success point. But maybe there's still time, and maybe you can help out. If you've been listening to this show for a really long time, friends, please do consider sharing about it a little extra heavy during the holiday seasons. Maybe going back and listening to some favorite episodes that really made an impression on you over the past, or checking out episodes whose titles appeal to you that you've not had the time to listen to in recent months before it might all disappear. And like I said, if you can donate $1, if you can donate $20, if you can donate $300 to the cause of paying the basic, I'm not trying to upgrade here, I'm just trying to keep the status quo and pay for next year in one fell swoop, so that we can just not stress about potentially losing the content. I'm going to ask them, I'm going to write to them and ask them about the technical issue. But anyways, I digress. Let's enjoy the rest of this track, and I'll just talk through most of it. Ha ha! Oh, that's a really fun track that we haven't played in a hot second. At any rate, friends, hello, welcome to the show, and also goodbye. We're signing off. No, there's too much to talk about, and there's been so many crazy things that have gone down in the world. From the most recent quadrupling down of the seemingly self-undermining, self-suffocating, not fulfilling, not manifesting, like it just keeps, it's a goalpost shifting prophecy of endless promises and never delivering, of the MAGA belief structure. I don't want to use the terribly judged C word, because I have a really radical opinion on that word. And it isn't the C word that you think it is, unless it is, and in which case everything is one of those, like everything. Like, our brains work that way. It's just the way it is. Not in the, terrible abuse each other sort of sense of the term, but rather in the organizing features. But I digress. Not everything's a cult, but everything is a cult. And that word is just, It's also probably gotten, so politicized that it's some kind of red flag. And I'm not accusing, or I'm not trying to troll, and I'm not pointing that word at anybody. But let's talk about how the MAGA belief structure has been promising some sort of flashpoint in which the tide will turn, which has never happened. And every time they've sort of pretended to almost know that it was really right around the corner, they've had to kick the can and move the goalposts down the road by leagues and leagues, miles and miles, kilometers and kilometers. And to the fact that we now have two ridiculously unnecessary and globally unpopular global conflicts that are dominating the headlines and churning opinions and dividing everyone. Whilst there are a grand total of nearly 40. I don't remember the exact number, and I would have to have it in front of me. I would have to have the particular source that I like to cite. But there's a website that has reasonably plausible sounding credentials and whatnot, so that Don't take my word for it. Go check it out for yourself. Go do your own search on, how many international armed conflicts of different levels of magnitude there are in the world. Somewhere I've got like my list of, I think these are facts. If I'm wrong, I apologize, but I believe that, if you broke it down into, big wars, medium leveled wars, like sort of big medium and small medium, and then like small conflicts, and then, little tiny conflicts. There's approximately upwards of 40 situations in different countries around the world that are just ongoing. And from my personal, metacognitive, meta-cultural, meta-philosophical, meta-spiritual, meta-political, meta-ideological view, completely irrational, absurd, and wrong, and immoral, and shouldn't be happening. But I digress. That isn't me saying one side is wrong and the other side is right, because I don't do that. I just don't think any war is worth the blood it costs, and I'll stand on that. So there's too much to say, and it's been overwhelming. I've literally have sat here at my workstation, my home, studio, as it were, and tried to, this is week after week that you've not seen me post any episodes. I've sit here and stared at this studio screen and tried to organize my thoughts in such a way that I felt strong and confident about broadcasting them to the world and saying them without offending anyone from any side, and while it's also trying to achieve the act of transcending the engineered or organic wedge issues that are literally scattered about the ideological soccer field that is public discourse. But friends, I'm going to try and do that now this week as we hunker down for our variety of various end of the year spiritual, pseudo-religious, or super religious ritual holy days. No matter what you celebrate, I say to you, in your tongue, in your terms and terminology, happy holidays. Whichever holiday it is, don't take offense that I go generic. Insert the one that you are attached to that is important to you. And know that although I don't participate in any religion, I honor everyone's right to celebrate whatever high holy day they wish, and know that that in some way should unite us in a transcendent way, because to the best of my knowledge, all the great teachers, for there have been more than many, or there's only ever been one under many guises, or there have been none at all. And there's many weird options into how we theorize about these things. I'm inclined to buy into it's a messy combination of all three, and that we need to hone our inner spiritual discernment in order to find the best guidance and not get suckered into blind faith ideological paths that lead us into pitfalls of ego and violence. Whatever you celebrate, whatever tradition you grew up in, whatever you are embracing or rejecting, I wish you, forgive me, I wish you, but before my voice dies out for the end of the year, because I don't think I'll be able to record much throughout, because I'm on the verge of coming down with something. I don't know what it is. Hopefully it's just a common cold. It might be the flu, which will be worse, but slightly better than any of the other remaining options. I'm trying to just knock this out before that happens, as I'm already feeling pretty, increasingly miserable. To all of you friends who have been listening, to any of you who may be new and are joining in and listening now, may the light and warmth and love of whatever that divine thing is that we speak of and that is the truth transcendently beyond the dogma and beyond the literature and beyond the holy books. Because for all my investigations and personal attempts to discredit and or verify any one particular tradition or concept or description of reality, I have confronted this quite bluntly, friends. There is a divinity. And once an individual encounters that, that individual has a hard time insisting any further that it is any one particular character from any one particular piece of literature, or they're doubled down by their own ideological constructs. So like they're filtered that, but if they truly, in a transcendent way, experience the divine, eventually that experience leads to like a liberation, right? As is described in almost all traditions. And it is that liberation, mental, spiritual, ideological, inner, that is both about the sentences that we create, as well as the emotional baggage that we carry, as well as the trauma that prevents us from achieving the kind of natural, psychological, and spiritual healing that is otherwise normal. It is there, I think, in that place that we don't spend a lot of time talking about. That is what all traditions point to once we look past the trappings and the culture and the dogma and the misconceptions and the competing narratives, et cetera, et cetera. And it is there, friends, where we might ultimately unite in transcendent healing in order to move beyond this framework of toxic behaviors and beliefs and conflicts and propensities towards violence that has ensnared our species for so long. And with that, friends, I bid you a fond farewell. I'm going to try to reinvigorate the show after recovering from whatever it is that is currently trying to invade my cellular structures and use my body as a disease host. May you and I and everyone find the healing that they need, both literally and metaphorically and metacognitively and metaphysically and meta-emotionally, so that we may unite in transforming ourselves and therefore each other and therefore the species towards the greatest expression of good and health and peace and mutual collaboration instead of mutual annihilation. And to that, dear friends, I hope we can unite in saying a strong and believable amen, no matter what you believe or do not believe. Because even atheists have a little wiggle room, I think, to join us in this. For if they have yet to recognize that divinity can be an atheist divinity, then that's a whole nother discussion. But may you rejoice and celebrate in safety and warmth, and may you and your family take the time to sit with the discomfort and the complexity of the suffering and the violence in our world, because that is the work that is required of us. Especially those of us who sit in the luxury of not being directly impacted by all the tragedies and travesties and existential dilemmas that are, ongoing throughout the world. Peace be with you, friends. And that is what I've got to say
about that. As always, thank you kindly for listening. This has been the Almost Daily ZenCast with your humble host, the incorrigible Mr. Zappa. Until next time, may peace, love, and grooviness blossom in your heart.